Hello and welcome to today's video. Today I'm doing another 2028 presidential election prediction, and this one I am doing what should be a very fun and contested one. The Republican Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, and the Governor of the state of California, Gavin Newsom. This one I'm really interested by because I feel like this one would actually have a very good idea of policy. I think Newsom and Vance would both be very direct and straightforward with what policies they support. And I think it'd be a real decision for the country to make. Do they want to go more big government or small government? And Newsom versus Vance would be very good. And before I need to address before getting to the prediction, obviously the situation with the California wildfires. I know I've seen a bunch of comments saying that is Gavin Newsom done because of this? He has no political future. I would say honestly on that front, for now, I would say hold on because the situation in California is bad, but also let's not forget 2028 is 4 years or going to be 3 to 4 years away. And Americans, I think when it comes to politics, a lot of Americans forgive and forget things very quickly. And I'm not even sure 100% that this will affect Newsom's chances in 2028 at all in a Democratic primary in 2028. So even if things seem bleak for Newsom now, which again, there's debate as to whether or not it does, I think by 2028, a lot of the things being discussed now probably won't be as big of a deal come 2028. So I just wanted to say that before getting into the video. First things first, I start off with 108 electoral votes as toss-up across all the states in gray, 211 electoral votes for Gavin Newsom, J.D. Vance with 219. This is where I think the electoral map starts off. I'm going to start with the state of Nevada and its 6 electoral votes. Nevada, we saw in 2024 vote for Donald Trump with 51% to Kamala Harris's 47%. That is a lean Republican win. As for Vance versus Newsom, it's interesting because I'm very skeptical that Vance will be able to do as well as Donald Trump did in terms of getting out people to vote. But I think for Vance versus Newsom, if Trump does a bunch of events and rallies in support of Vance, which I expect he will, I think he would be able to do enough where he'd be able to win the state of Nevada in a lean margin. I don't think Vance is going to do better than Trump did in 2024, honestly, probably anywhere. But I do think at very least he may be able to stay within like half a percentage point or so, or within 1% of what Trump was able to get in the state of Nevada. That puts Vance at 225, Newsom at 211. The state of Arizona in this 11 electoral votes voted for Donald Trump over Kamala Harris, 52% to 47%. That is a 5% win. That would be considered likely Republican. Vance is interesting because I think Vance, again, does not have as much baggage as Trump does in the state of Arizona with the John McCain family and such. So I think Vance actually against Newsom, despite obviously California and Arizona being right nearby, Vance may have potential to do better in Arizona, but I think Vance at the end of the day will win it by just a hair under 5%, like 4.5% in Arizona. And that's going to be one that I think it's going to really come down to the wire. This puts Vance at 236. Newsom is still at 211. Nebraska's 2nd district, we did just see it vote for Kamala Harris by about 5%. This, again, right on the edge between lean and likely. And I think with Gavin Newsom, I think it would narrowly go in the lean column, just under 5 points for Gavin Newsom. The state of Minnesota and its 10 electoral votes, we did just see it vote for Kamala Harris over Donald Trump, 51% to 47%. And I think in this election as well, Minnesota, it's either going to be a likely Democratic state or a lean Democratic state. I'm going to narrowly put it as a lean Democrat, but again, another one I think it's really close. Maybe it would be a little bit over lean and just into likely by a little bit, like a little over 5%. Because I think Donald Trump did very well in getting a lot of Republicans out to vote in Minnesota, and I'm not sure J.D. Vance will be able to do that as well. Like maybe just a bit into likely, but I think I'm going to keep it with lean Democrat for now. Now we move into the state of Georgia and its 16 electoral votes. This should be a very interesting one. This is a very close race in 2024. Donald Trump was able to win with 51% to Kamala Harris's 49%. And this one will be the closest that I've had so far in all my predictions for the state of Georgia. I am giving it to J.D. Vance, but I'm giving it to him under 1% of the vote. I do think we're going to see a continuing trend in Georgia where the red rural areas will continue to vote red as they always have and did for Donald Trump. But due to Fulton County and the surrounding Democratic suburbs, of Atlanta voting very heavily for Kamala Harris. I think we see that continue in 2028, and Georgia ends up going for Vance by under 1%. As for the state of North Carolina, we did just see vote for Donald Trump, 51% to 48% versus Kamala Harris. And I honestly think this is a state that's always talked about potentially flipping in 2028. And I personally just don't see it. I think Vance wins it, and I think he wins it by a lean Republican margin, which means over 1%. If I was not clear on that, by the way, lean Republican is in between 1 and 5. Tilt is 1 or under. Likely is 5 to 15. And the dark red, dark blue, safe is 15 or more. And I think Vance will win North Carolina by about 2 to 2.5%. Again, about 0.5% off what Donald Trump did, but still enough to keep it in the Republican column. For the state of New Hampshire and its 4 electoral votes, it's a state that came actually pretty close in 2024. Kamala Harris won at 51%, Donald Trump got 48%. This is one where I think Vance actually may make more of a play for it than Trump did in 2024, but I think Newsom will still be able to hold on and win the state, not by more than 5%, but probably win it by like 4 to 4.5%, keeping it as 4 electoral votes in the Democratic column. Now we come to the 3 Rust Belt states. This is Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. And so far, with Vance versus Newsom, the trend I've been seeing, at least in my own prediction for this, is I feel like Vance is going to do about a half point behind what Trump has been doing. So with that half point, I think it's possible that for the state of Wisconsin, which did vote by 0.9% for Trump over Harris, I do think, though, there may be a little bit more than 0.5% difference in Wisconsin, where Trump did very good at getting a lot of voters to turn out for him in the state of Wisconsin. I'm skeptical if Vance can do as good of a job. Maybe he can, but I'm a little skeptical that he'll be able to. I think all the 3 Rust Belt states, I think we could potentially see Wisconsin actually narrowly go by under 1% for Gavin Newsom. And that would put him at 236 electoral votes. I predicted accurately that all 3 Rust Belt states would vote for Donald Trump in the 2024 presidential election. As for 2028, it's so far away, we're not going to know until things get closer. But I wouldn't be shocked if the streak of the 3 states voting in unison did break, especially if J.D. Vance does win the election. It is possible he wins them in a bit of a split. As for the state of Pennsylvania, we're going to come back to Michigan. Pennsylvania voted for Donald Trump 50.4% to 48.7%. This is one where I think the election's really going to be close, and I think it is going to be decided in 2028 once again. And I think Vance will win the state of Pennsylvania, but he will win it by under 1%. Again, I don't think Vance will do as well as Donald Trump did at getting a lot of people who typically don't vote that did turn out to vote for Donald Trump. I think Vance may lose some of those voters, so much so that the states of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania will all be decided by 1% or less for whichever candidate wins it. I do think Pennsylvania does stay a little bit more Republican and does vote for Vance in 2028, especially versus Gavin Newsom, but I do think it's going to be very, very close. And for the state of Michigan, it's 15 electoral votes. We saw a pretty big swing here for Donald Trump, going up to 49.7%, Harris 48.3%. This is the biggest a Republican has gotten percentage-wise. In the 2000s, even with Trump winning it in 2016, this was a much bigger percentage for Donald Trump. And I do think Michigan is going to narrowly stay Republican for J.D. Vance, but not only do I think it's under 1% of the vote, I think it's even under 0.5% of the vote, something around 0.4, 0.3 in the state of Michigan for Vance over Newsom. Because I think Vance versus Newsom is going to be, probably a lot more lower turnout than Trump versus Harris or Trump versus Biden was, but I do think it's going to be very, very close, and the battleground states are going to have 3 or 4 states all deciding the race by under 1% in a matchup like this. I think 2028 will be very close. Typically, the last time I can think of a VP running immediately after the president was when George H.W. Bush ran after Ronald Reagan in 1988. In that election, H.W. Bush did not do as well as Reagan did, obviously, in the last election before that. I think the streak continues with Vance, the sitting VP, doing worse, a little bit worse than the president did in his last election. So I think Vance will still win against Gavin Newsom, but I think it'll be by a hair. It'll be by a very close election where a few tens of thousands of votes across about 5 or 6 toss-up states really decide the election. So for Vance versus Newsom, I have Vance getting 302 electoral votes, Newsom getting 236. I'm interested to hear what you have to think of this video. Who do you think will win between JD Vance and Gavin Newsom if this is the 2028 presidential election? Make sure to give the video a like, leave a comment below telling me your thoughts. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and keep coming back because I post a new video every single day, so make sure you come back for those. That'll do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in a future video. That will do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to give it a like. And if you really liked it, please remember to click the subscribe button. And make sure you turn post notifications on so you always get notified when I post a new video. That way you never miss one. Also, please remember to share this video with your friends and family if you really like the video. And remember to stay tuned because I'll be posting at least one video every single day leading up until Election Day. So I'd really appreciate it if you keep coming back and watching those videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in a future video.